Hi, I'm Chris from airwindows, and I'd like to show you yet another plugin. And it is yet another tape plugin, which might please some people. And some people might think I've made way too many of these things, but here's what's different about this one. This is called FromTape. And what it is a refinement of something that I had in a previous generation of 2-tape, where I made a version available that didn't have the head bump stuff. That also means it doesn't have the weird DC generating low frequency boost. But there are some things going on with it all the same that are very interesting. You got louder, softer, weight output, and dry wet. Louder is of course a gain, so is output. Softer is pretty much what you know from the 2-tape version, but slightly different. And weight is a controllable version of the high pass. And I'll show you what this sounds like. This is without it. And if I turn it on, you notice it cut down some of the level. Now what this does is two things. One, it softens the sound, and two, it applies this high pass, but the high pass is not a normal high pass. It's the little unusual airwindows kind. The kind that struggles to rein in the DC that 2-tape generates because it has a... Well, here, I'll show you how this works. Firstly, softer can be turned up a lot. You see over here, we're just distorting the heck out of it. But there's a difference between this and 2-tape. This is only using the softer functionality. It is not using any additional saturation. So this doesn't limit dynamic peaks very much. It just sort of mutates them. Like what I can do is I'll turn up louder with the softer all the way cranked. And you'll hear what that does. And notice you're getting some peaks. Also, this one goes down to 0. Now, if you use weight, this is the full extent of weight. As you can see, the high pass is rolled off very high here. And I've named it that way because if you turn it up to 1, you have no high pass left anymore. And that sounds like this. See how it's very big? And then it starts off much more rolled off. You adjust this to taste. But check this out. If you have no rolling off at all and you have softer cranked all the way, observe what happens to the peaks. Firstly, it sounds much more distorted, but then as they keep boosting it, we're going right past the original peaks. And this can be more easily seen on Old Faithful Alien Kittens, my synthesizer track. I'll go back to the neutral once again. Now you'll notice something interesting here. Observe the behavior. This contains nothing but clipping, rolling off, and attenuating. There's no boost here. Softer is at 0.5. If you turn it all the way up, it does indeed clip. And weight is at 0.5. That is a high pass. That's supposed to be rolling off the lows. But the way that the weight control, and that's present in 2-tape as well, works, it's got an odd sort of resonant quality about it. I think it's a good sounding resonant quality, but you'll see immediately what happens to it. 0. You engage reach it, there are no boosts. Immediately 1.3 dB over. And that's because the beats of this are going to full crank without any processing happening. And then the weight control is high passing it in such a way that the lows are being kind of rearranged and they will peak out a little bit more. What you get is something kind of like this. I can turn this right down. And then maybe I can give it a little more lows, but then start rolling it. See, and I've already got another boost again. We'll cut it right down to 0.5. And then what we're going to do is boost it some more. So what we have here is an interesting way where we're using FromTape to kind of reprocess the highs and lows. I'll turn the software off and then I'll get back to it later. And we're using weight to sort of fill in lows that might otherwise be limited or clipped. Sounds kind of like this. Without it, then we turn it on. And the lows have a certain sort of roundness to them, which is characteristic of tape. That's one of the reasons I'm doing it this way. Then, let's play with the software. Yeah, it's too much distortion. Now, the thing about softer is that it is clipping, it's saturating the highs, and it's a very transparent effect, so we're having to boost fairly heavily and also turn it way up in order to be able to hear it do anything. But it does actually have its effect. We'll go back to this one, for instance, and tab gives me the defaults. Oh, here's another thing I just discovered. Check it out. If you double click on Logic's plugin thing, boop, smaller. And this button also does the same thing. It's a window shade button. So if you need to fit a lot of plugins, first of all, mine are very good at that. And second of all, you can really fit a lot of plugins using it this way. And this thing on the top, that is the name of the track. But yeah, we'll leave it on. And what we're going to hear now is, and in fact, I'll turn weight up all the way and softer down all the way. And this will be effectively doing nothing to the sound. Let's give me my on-off switch again. Turn it on. Maybe a little bit of a result. Not much of a change. This one's really designed so that it isn't necessarily going to mess with you in any way. You can dial it back until it does absolutely nothing, and then start bringing in stuff like softer. Now if I turn it off, let's turn it up a little more. If I turn it off, here's our output, and then we got a little sort of edge rolled over by the tape effect, and that's what software can do. And then when we start including things like dialing back the weight, which is another thing that can happen with tape, is you'll get a certain amount of head bump, and the resonant quality of this high pass gives you that. But then you'll probably also not have the lows extending as low as your full-on digital DC capable lows. So you might do something like this. then let's bounce over to another one that we know, Stealth Kit, with the same setting. And this one has such bright hats and things that when we turn it on, we're going to hear a big difference. We'll turn it off. Back on. Let's give it a little more of those real lows. We got a really big boost there. We're 2 dB hotter than we were. Three dB hotter than we were. Let's see if we're still peaking out here. And then let's turn up the softer a little more. So without doing any gain boosts going in, we have a nice, thick, but well-controlled output. Let's dial it back just a bit more. And that's compared with, this is the raw signal. Sounds maybe a little digital. Let's fix that. That's FromTape. FromTape, sorry, not FromTape. I guess that's going to be yet another one. I'll do one called FromTape, and then I'll do one called 2. So I've already put out 2-tape, but FromTape might actually even beat it in certain ways. Certainly with people who don't want to do sort of the really intense simulation of head bump and stuff like that. If you're looking for just being able to control the tape-like stuff you're doing to a sound, including a sound that, like this one, is very digital sounding. And we can pull it back too. This is considerably less than default, and it's still having an effect. It's rolling it off very nicely. And we can also eat the bass really hard on this one. Take this off. This is the one that was designed to go on individual channels. 2-tape is never designed to go on individual channels because it's just got too much going on. It's got the flutter, it's got the head bump, it's a very extreme head bump, all of this stuff. It's too much to double up. You don't want to have it on the bus and then also on the channels. But a funny thing about it is that because this is simplified so much, because this is leaving out all of that extra stuff that was, partly done for the challenge of it, partly for marketing purposes, because you do a new version of a thing, it's like, I need to add flutter, I need to add more about the head, and so on and so forth. This one's so clean and CPU efficient, I also will add, that you can use it on the individual channels, but you might also choose to use it on the 2-bus as well, and just keep finding new things. As you can see, it does a really good job of being a high pass, and it does a really good job of controlling digital highs, and you could soften up or smooth out a guitar sound or just about anything It's got your dry wet control, of course. People tend to like that. And it's just a super good general purpose tool. This is supported through Patreon. Patreon is a thing that I do where people kick in $1 a month, and in exchange for that, I give them infinite plugins forever. Forever, I tell you. Or almost, something like that. In any case, I've been coming up with a lot of plugins, and so this one is free for you. And if you can join the Patreon and give me $1 a month or whatever is convenient for you, I mean, I think it's what, 2.4 or something gets you close to being $50 a year, which is the same as if you used to buy a plugin from me every year. Now, if you bought 2 plugins from me every year, it would be more like $100 a year, but we don't have to worry about that. Anything that you can throw towards me in the Patreon helps me keep doing this, and this is way better than the previous 2-tape, or FromTape. Actually, in some ways, it's better than the 2-tape as well, but that's how it goes. Partly the Patreon means that I don't have to hang on to things like the Flutter and so on that I didn't really believe in. I can make one that is refined down to what I think is optimal. And if you try this out, you might find that you agree. Now remember, when using this has a high pass, this has softer. That's all it has. It doesn't have the same kind of internal saturation and distortion things that 2-tape does have. So it'll be kind of less thick and full and rounded and fat and all of that kind of stuff. It intentionally has less of that stuff. I left it out so that it has only the bits that are most relevant to what it's doing. And I think that's what makes it the best one of all. Hope you agree. In any case, I hope you like it. Thanks.